Good morning, everybody. Glad to be with you this Saturday morning. My name is Ed Samuel. I'm a career coach with a firm called Sam Nova. We're based in Kennett Square, PA, and serve clients in the greater Philadelphia area and across the U.S. In the spirit of a new traditions, and one of my resolutions kicking off this year is to introduce a segment called Career Spotlight, where I'm actually interviewing people from all walks who have landed in a career that finally seems to resonate in all ways. It's not only the end destination, but about the journey, the twists, the turns, the stumbles, but also the perseverance, the risk-taking, life overall, and so much more. So this morning, I have the pleasure of introducing our second guest to our Career Spotlight series. Her name is Judy Miller, who hails from Chester County, PA, about an hour west of Philly. So Judy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Judy, are you born and raised in Pennsylvania? Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from northwestern Pennsylvania, a small town, and, where basically most people hunt and fish, and the opportunities in my small town were you either worked for the refinery, a mail order company, or you were a teacher or a banker. So those were the kind of opportunities that were in the small town that I grew up in.
If you can remember going back to your high school days, what kind of got you thinking about your initial focus on a career, and then where did you go to college?
Well, I have to say that, back when I was in high school, I always loved math and science. Those were my two strongest areas as far as studying courses. And when I was considering what I wanted to do when I left high school, I had actually thought about medical school and being a doctor. And I actually shadowed a pediatrician in town when I was in high school and thought that's what I wanted to do. So then I headed off to Allegheny College in another town in western Pennsylvania to pursue pre-med. That was initially what I started out as, a pre-med student. I quickly determined that was not where I wanted to go. I just didn't feel like the pre-med crowd fit me and my personality, but I still liked math and science, so I continued with my math and science interests in college.
And then what did you ultimately settle on?
So partway through my college career, I was taking a physics class, and my physics professor approached me about a new program that the college was starting where students would go to another university and study engineering, and they would end up graduating from both colleges with 2 degrees. So what I ended up doing was getting a math degree from Allegheny College, and then I went to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, studied engineering, and graduated from there with an engineering degree. So it was kind of a win-win for me. I ended up with 2 degrees in like 5 years. It was pretty awesome. And at the time, I didn't even really know what an engineer was until I went to Case and started studying it and found it was something I enjoyed.
So when you left school, what was your first job and what did you do?
Well, the cool thing was when I was at Case, I actually ended up doing an internship for Caterpillar in York, Pennsylvania. And they actually hired me before I went back to school. And isn't that every parent's dream to have their kids be off at college and have a job before they graduate? So
that's amazing.
I was pretty excited that Caterpillar hired me, and I went back to school, finished my last semester, and then immediately started working for Caterpillar once I graduated.
Yeah, did you like work with them?
I loved it. They kind of had a program where you went through different areas of the company. Now, granted, I was brand new out of college, so there wasn't a whole lot I knew about manufacturing. So I learned over time. They put me in different departments and taught me their traditional manufacturing. And at the time, too, they were looking at kind of what we would call today lean manufacturing and eliminating a lot of the waste and things like that. And that's where I ended up, was in a group that was improving all of the manufacturing processes, which was really cool to be a part of.
How long did you work there, Judy?
I worked there 8 years and developed a great rapport with my colleagues as well as people on the floor. Just really enjoyed my job on a daily basis.
So then what happened, Judy, in terms of, this whole twist that happened next in your life?
Yeah, well, I had a child, and while I was on maternity leave, the union that worked at our company had gone on strike. And when I got back to work, a lot of the engineers and management were running machinery in the shop, and there were a lot of extra expectations put on us as far as, workload, that they wanted everybody to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And with me with a little baby at home, I just didn't feel like I could do that. And it was something I had to make a choice, and I chose my family because that was what was important to me at the time, and felt like that was the right decision for me at the time. So,
not necessarily the ideal work-life balance, and this
right.
is back.
Yeah, it was definitely right.
Wow. So then, kind of what happened? You decided to leave them, and then what happened the next 15 years? What did you do?
Well, I did a variety of things. So we ended up. My husband we followed his job, and we ended up in North Carolina for a few years, where I started a home-based business. And because after a little while of being a stay-at-home mom, I realized that wasn't really what I wanted either, but I didn't feel like I was ready to get back into quite the workforce and, the demands of the career that I had just left. So I found some things that I could do. I sold Pampered Chef for quite a few years and developed quite a business there and was very successful, earned trips and things like that. But all the while really thinking in the back of my mind, I would really like to get back to that career that I left.
Judy, before you go on, for those listeners who don't know what Pampered Chef is, can you explain it briefly?
Oh, sure. So Pampered Chef is a home-based business where you go into people's homes, you carry a lot of product with you, kitchen tools and things like that. Usually do a demonstration of preparing food of some kind, whether it's a main dish, desserts, and things like that. And then people there have an opportunity to purchase the products that you're using and selling. They also have the opportunities to book their own parties where you would come to their house and do the same thing or different menu. And they also have an opportunity to sell and become a part of my team. So that was kind of a threefold business.
Yeah. How many people did you have on your team at the high point?
At the high point of my job as a Pampered Chef consultant, I had over 100 consultants. I had several directors, 5 or 6 directors under me. It was amazing how that business blossomed. Sometimes I was amazed at how things happened for me when I had that business. It was incredible.
And you did most of this down south, if I understand?
Well, no, I started when we lived in North Carolina. And then we moved. We were only in North Carolina for a couple of years, and then we moved back to Pennsylvania. And when we moved back was when I decided, you know what, I want to see if I can get back into my career as an engineer. So I did make some, apply for some jobs, had some phone interviews, but never could quite get back into the field on my own. I made a few attempts, but never was quite able to land that job. So I continued with my business. And at one point decided if I couldn't get into engineering, that I would use my math degree and possibly teach. So then I started looking at seeing if I could find a teaching job.
Wow. So did you end up having to go back to school to get a teaching certificate of some sort?
No. Well, I did, but I had done that back when I was still working for Caterpillar. I actually took a leave of absence and got certified to teach math while I was working as an engineer, just as a backup plan, because when I was working there, they had told us that plant wasn't always going to be there, that they were going to close it at some point. And so I wanted to have a backup plan. So I already was certified. I just had to reactivate my certification and then find a job. So.
Wow. So that was some foresight on your part, because that was 15 plus years earlier, right?
Right. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was.
That's
amazing. About 15 years earlier. Mm-hmm.
So now it's been, 15, 16, 17 years, whatever it is. And now you're back in Pennsylvania and you're pursuing becoming a math teacher. So what happened there?
Well, it was funny. I was doing a lot of subbing in the schools, probably for about a year and a half. And I happened to get a call one day to be a long-term sub at a charter school which was right across the street from my house. And so I started there as a long-term sub, and they ended up hiring me because they were pleased with the work I was doing with the kids. And I actually ended up then working there for about 8 years, where I taught a variety of different subjects, which I enjoyed teaching. But one of the things, that I didn't realize was not all the kids enjoy math. And, the challenges that come with trying to manage your classroom and motivate students and the job of a teacher, I found to be very challenging and not really my forte.
So let me ask you, so now you have 7 years teaching, 15 years of which you were doing something very different in terms of Pampered Chef. So now we're looking at 22 years. What kind of drove you to say, hey, look, I want to look at this engineering area again?
Well, so the last couple of years that I taught, I decided I wanted to start a course of my own, which was a math and engineering course, where I took some of the top students from our school and would show them how they would use the math that they've been learning, whether it's algebra, pre-calculus, calculus, and how it would apply to engineering type problems, and kind of expose them to some of that information before they headed off to college so that they could decide before they went to college what an engineer is and whether it's something they were interested in. And so I would take them to companies. We would visit companies and see how they would use engineering on their jobs and math and things like that. And all this time, I'm thinking, I would really like to be back in this. This is what I've been wanting to do, and I really miss it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So you went and you got creative in terms of bringing into the teaching world that you were in math. You brought in this whole engineering class, and so that got you thinking, very creative in your part. Now, what happened next?
Well, so because I had this desire to get back into engineering, I started going online, finding job postings, putting in my resume, talking to anybody and everybody that I could. If we were at a Christmas party and there were people there who were talking about, work opportunities and things like that, I put my name out there. I started doing networking, and I found that there was like this wall that I couldn't break through. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting any response from anybody. I have a feeling probably part of it was they would look at my resume and think, why does this person really want to get back into industry with because I have an eclectic resume. And so, I'm sure there were a lot of unanswered questions on the other end of not really sure why I was applying for jobs when my engineering experience was dated. I mean, it was. So, and that's when, and so then I started asking people and finally got connected with you, a career counselor, and that's where things changed.
And how did things change?
Well, you were able to help me in a lot of different ways, not just with, I was already doing the networking and meeting people, but you helped me with my LinkedIn to make it look professional and concise and consistent with my resume. You helped me with other social media like Twitter and things like that. You helped me with my resume to make it more presentable and, figure out a 2-minute commercial for myself that if somebody asked me what I do or what I'm looking for, that I would have an answer for them. Just all those kinds of things that some of them I hadn't really thought about.
I remember when I started working with you, this wasn't easy because what you were doing, it was incredibly hard. I work with people who are in the field and they've been out of work a year and a half, and it's hard. Here, you're out of your industry focus for over 25 years. I knew it was going to be hard. But one thing you did, Judy, that is just a wonderful thing, is that everything I asked you to do, you did. And
Right.
not many people can do that well, because it meant you had to learn a lot and do things you had never done before.
That's true. And, there were times when I would, wasn't sure how I was going to be able to do some of the things you were asking me to do because they were out of my comfort zone. But I knew that if I didn't try everything, that I would regret it someday. So, because I was that passionate about getting back into my career, that I couldn't just give up. And even, I have to say I had a lot of support from family and friends and church friends and things like that, who, when I would get discouraged or when I would start thinking I can't do this, they would encourage me and tell me not to stop, to keep going.
Yeah. What was one of the breakthroughs? Because I know you started reaching out to people, and what do you think? What happened in terms of a breakthrough to get
me where I am right now?
Yeah.
Well, I was able to, you had connected me with a couple of people and asked me to, connect with them and talk to them. And I had arranged a meeting with a gentleman at the company that I currently work at. And he was willing to at least talk to me. So yep. I set up a time to come meet him at this business and spent probably an hour with him just talking about me and, the types of jobs that they would have openings for here and things like that. And I really felt like there was the potential for an opportunity for me, maybe not as an engineer right away, but at least I could get a start and get my foot in the door.
It's interesting, Judy. I remember coaching you on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Half the battle, more than half the battle, is that he had to believe you.
Right.
Anybody could just talk, but they actually have to believe it in your eyes and your heart, what you were saying, that, hey, you really wanted to be back in. And something must have resonated, because they ended up offering you a job. It wasn't necessarily the job that you were shooting for initially. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and that was a tough one. So when I went and they invited me for an interview for a supervisor's job on second shift, and I was excited about being a supervisor, but I wasn't too excited about the second shift thing. So I went to the interview and felt like it went very well. I felt like I was well prepared with the work you and I had done and things like that. And I was able to answer their questions. And they did end up offering me a job. And before that happened, my husband and I were talking about it, and he was concerned that, he was concerned about me taking that job, but I was insistent that if I took that job, that sometime down the line, there would be an opportunity for me probably to move to a different position and be back in engineering at some point. I didn't know exactly when that would happen or how it would happen, but I had to believe that it would.
So what ultimately happened?
So I accepted the position. I started at the company, and they put me through a serious training program because, one, I hadn't been in industry for a while, and I'd never been in the medical device field. So I had a lot to learn. And so they put me through different areas of the company for probably like 2 or 3 months. And then I went to second shift and was the supervisor on second shift for quite a while. And it was hard. I'm not saying it was easy, because it was meaning that I didn't see my family during the week. I would only see my family on the weekends because I worked when they were sleeping and came home and slept, and they left for work, this kind of thing. So,
wow.
But
wow.
Eventually there was an engineering position that opened up, and now I'm an engineer here. I'm a manufacturing engineer, and I love my job.
Amazing. And isn't it interesting that nothing was a linear activity here, right? Everything was a twist and a turn, and you had to take risks multiple times. Judy, when people come up to you and say, hey, I'm 50, I'm 55, hey, this is just too hard, I can't do it. What do you say to them?
Well, I say that I know it's hard. I've been there. I've done it, but I have to, if you are passionate and believe in that you really want something, you've got to take those risks. You've got to trust that there's something on the other side that, if you don't try those things and don't, do your best and work your hardest to get to where you want to be, you're always going to wonder, what if I had, and I couldn't live with myself if I hadn't tried and done as much as I did. I would have always wondered what if, and I would have been disappointed.
Yeah, if you had not tried, wow.
Right. If I had not tried. And so I would encourage anybody to don't give up. Get people around you who are encouraging and who can see sometimes what you don't see, or just be that word of encouragement when you need it, when you're down. So
beautiful. One of the things I also just admired about your effort is that, you worked really, really hard. So when you said it wasn't easy, well, that's because you had to put extra effort in. And sometimes, people worry about people putting that extra effort in. So this is an amazing journey from a 25-year plus gap, and then you're back doing what you originally loved to do. Any parting words, Judy, before we depart?
I would just say, don't give up. Find people and surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you, pray for you, just uplift you when you're down, and keep going. Don't stop. Beautiful.
Well, Judy, thanks for joining us this morning, and just an amazing, amazing journey, and one that I love to share. And I wanted to do this with you in the worst way for some time. So thanks so much, and maybe we'll have you back again to give us another update in the years ahead.
I would love that. I'm glad to share my story with your listeners.
Great. Okay, we'll talk to you soon, Judy. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
So we're just about out of time. For those new to the program, I did publish my first book at the end of 2019 called Optimize Your Resume, The Do's and Don'ts of Resumes, the Sam Nova Way. It's available on Amazon and paperback and Kindle. So, and we have over 200 plus positive comments about the book to date, and love to see you check it out and order a copy for someone, whether it be yourself or someone in need. And I'd love to have you join us again on the next Optimize Your Career program on Saturday, March 21st, on 2020. This is Ed Samuel, career coach with Sam Nova. Our website is www.samnovainc, that's SAMNOVAINC.com. If you'd like to reach me with a question or a comment, email me at esamuel@samnovainc, SAMNOVAINC.com, or call our main number at 610-274-8214. Hey, make it a great weekend, and God bless.